right, Shannon, you are the expert on all things Lakers. Weigh in here. Can you see a Kyrie for Russ trade actually going down?
The Brooklyn Nets want to move on from Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving getting traded to the Lakers or not?
I really wanted to cover Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in one video, but since there was just way too much information for me to compound into one video, and since some people might just be hardcore Laker fans that just care about the Kyrie Irving stuff, or some people might just be hardcore Kevin Durant fans and they just wanted the Kevin Durant news, I decided to separate them for this video. Now, if you want me to combine it in the future, just let me know in the comment section down below. I read all your feedback and comments, so whichever means of doing this that you find to be the most easy to consume and the most efficient, I like to hear your take in the comment section. Now, before we get to the content, I'm currently undergoing a procedure. Yes, as you're watching this, so hopefully it went well. If you want an update as to how I'm doing, follow me on Instagram, and we're gonna also post shorter versions of this content onto my Instagram page and my TikTok. Both of them are called TheFlightMike. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The last time we discussed Kyrie Irving's situation, it seems like there was only one team that was really interested in trading for Kyrie Irving, and that team would be the Los Angeles Lakers. As a matter of fact, the only information that we had up until this point where I'm making the video is the fact that the Brooklyn Nets, one, didn't want to give Kyrie Irving a huge contract extension because, dude, this man's only played, and I feel like I say this in every video, so I think just say it with me at this point. This man has played in more games in 2 seasons with the Boston Celtics than in 3 seasons with the Brooklyn Nets. So as a result, the Brooklyn Nets were questioning his commitment to the game of basketball. And I get it, man. If you have an employee that's coming into work and, you know, he's just doing his job just so he could collect a check and then he walks off, or at least that's what your perception of him is, which I'm not saying that's my perception of Kyrie, but I do agree that after 1 season, you get injured and you decide to be aggressive to handle the injury until Kevin Durant comes back in your first season in Brooklyn. Then in the second season, you start taking time off randomly to spend time with family, and then in his 3rd season, he had to battle the vaccine drama. Portion of it is just unfortunate, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I can understand the Brooklyn Nets saying this isn't something we want to invest in. Or maybe it's the fact that the Brooklyn Nets wanted to do this as a ploy to just pay Kyrie $36 million for this season, as opposed to paying a premium to keep him under contract for the future. Now, here's where things get a little testy, and I told you guys in my Kevin Durant video, and I feel like we need to preface this video with this information because there is a possibility
But nothing happens.
and based upon the moves that the Brooklyn Nets have been making recently, I mean, trading a 1st round pick so they could acquire Royce O'Neal, which is a phenomenal 2-way player, and in addition to that, signing a player like TJ Warren, which when healthy is a fantastic player to have on your roster. Yes, he's not the same TJ Warren that looked like the next coming of Michael Jordan in the NBA bubble, but at the same time, still, if you have this guy coming off of your bench, or if you want to rest Kevin Durant a little bit more and plug in TJ Warren, if he could stay healthy, it's a fantastic player to have on your roster, and they only got him for a veteran minimum. Like, this is very impressive. I don't think we're talking about this enough. In addition to this, the Brooklyn Nets brought back Kessler Edwards. I mean, all of these moves don't necessarily give me a vibe that the Brooklyn Nets are trying to rebuild. As a matter of fact, whenever you're trying to rebuild, you hold on to your 1st round picks. I mean, you don't give up a 1st round pick no matter what. You don't trade for 2-way players. At the same time, the trade for Royce O'Neal went down literally like 30 minutes before Kevin Durant officially demanded a trade. But now this is where we are with the Brooklyn Nets potentially trading Kyrie Irving. So yesterday we got this report, which, to be honest, I really believe this report as a Laker fan. This is coming to us via Cham Charania, via the Pat McAfee show.
There's no traction on any type of a Lakers deal for Kyrie Irving.
Yikes.
So there's nothing new on that, and I'm not quite sure we're going to see that take place.
There is no traction whatsoever in regards to the Los Angeles Lakers potentially acquiring Kyrie Irving, which they had discussions, which I believe, but think of this from the perspective of the Brooklyn Nets, man. You don't have to trade Kyrie, even though he's threatening to leave to the Los Angeles Lakers next year, which, don't get me wrong, Kyrie Kyrie Irving is by far the most volatile superstar in the entire NBA. I mean, I don't think there's a single individual that is more terrifying to tie the future of your franchise to than Kyrie Irving. Unfortunately for the Brooklyn Nets, they kind of did just that. They don't have a single first round pick until like 2029 as a result of the James Harden trade. So at the same time, one has to wonder, would the Brooklyn Nets really want to just punt on Kyrie Irving and trade him to the Los Angeles Lakers for Russell Westbrook, who's also on an expiring contract, and a 2027 first round pick? I mean, I'm a Laker fan, and I even think that doesn't make a lot of sense, with all due respect. Yes, you could unload Joe Harris's horrific contract with that, but you have Kyrie freaking Irving. I understand there's not much of a market for him currently, at least reportedly, but at the same time, you would imagine that they would get something a little bit more, right? Well, there's a new team that is entering the fold. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, the San Antonio Spurs could get involved with the Brooklyn Nets and Los Angeles Lakers trade talks, absorbing Russell Westbrook into their cap space and sending over assets to Brooklyn and landing Kyrie Irving in Los Angeles. I'm just trying to figure out, what would the San Antonio Spurs get in return here? Because it's not like the Brooklyn Nets have a plethora of assets to give the San Antonio Spurs for taking on Russell Westbrook's contract. Neither do the Los Angeles Lakers. Maybe they have Talon Horton-Tucker. I'm really unsure how the framework of such a trade would go down. Woj even continues to say that you'd have to incentivize the San Antonio Spurs at a pretty high level. The unwillingness of the Los Angeles Lakers to incentivize with multiple picks is still part of the reason that hasn't gone anywhere yet, and that could change. So at the same time, one has to wonder, what would be the incentive for the Spurs to get involved at all? Why would any of these teams, the Los Angeles Lakers or the Brooklyn Nets, send additional assets to the San Antonio Spurs for their involvement in such a trade? Because we all know at this point the San Antonio Spurs are in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. They're just trying to tank to potentially get their most talented and transcendent player since the days of Tim Duncan. So at this point, I'm just trying to figure out why on earth this would happen. Because the Brooklyn Nets are desperate for any type of draft capital from the Los Angeles Lakers, and at the same time, it's not like the Lakers have a plethora of assets to trade to begin with. That's the reason why you haven't heard of a Kyrie Irving trade yet. Kyrie wants to go to LA. Kyrie's only willing to sign an extension with LA. LA only has like Russell Westbrook and like Talon Horton-Tucker and some future first round picks to offer back. Now, at the same time, we heard another fairly interesting rumor, which goes hand in hand with my take of how on earth is this going to go down? How are we going to make this happen? Woj is also saying that the Lakers have talked to the Indiana Pacers about a Buddy Hield trade and with the Houston Rockets about an Eric Gordon deal. But here's my issue. How on earth do you make something like this happen? Because you can't acquire Kyrie Irving and at the same time acquire a player like Eric Gordon or Buddy Hield. It's kind of an either or situation. Unless if I'm completely miscalculating the salary cap over here, Buddy Hield is currently making $23.5 million a year annually from the Indiana Pacers. Eric Gordon is currently making $18.8 million annually from the Houston Rockets. Russell Westbrook makes $27 million, and Kyrie Irving is currently making $37 million. The Lakers already made several offseason acquisitions. It's not like they have tremendous salary cap space at this point. As a matter of fact, this team is currently $55 million below the cap. So how would such a trade work at this point? It's either or. You either acquire Kyrie Irving and send Russell Westbrook off, or you're able to facilitate a multi-team trade and maybe bring back players like Buddy Hield or Eric Gordon to support LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You guys already know my style. I personally really like the league when you saw a lot of duality, when you saw two stars per team like James Harden and Russell Westbrook on the Rockets, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on the Clippers, Anthony Davis and LeBron James on the Lakers, Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley on the Jazz, and then you just support them with as much depth as humanly possible. That has always been my style. I've never been a big fan of going all in on these crazy big threes and then just supporting them with players who are close to retirement on veteran minimum contracts or players that are being signed to a one-year prove-it deal. So at this point, my personal prediction, based upon what Woj is saying, and all due respect to Woj is saying some nonsense over here. No disrespect respect to him, but like sometimes I feel like he goes out of the way to stir the pot for no reason. I don't think Kyrie and KD are going to get traded at this point. It just isn't a situation that in my head makes a lot of sense. I would love to see Kyrie Irving on the Los Angeles Lakers. He's definitely an upgrade over Russell Westbrook. I just can't figure out why the Brooklyn Nets would do something like that. Maybe you can make sense out of it for me in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.